there's two things that I want to talk to you guys about today. Number one is make sure when you buy brakes, the discs or the drums are coated with a protective layer such as zinc. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen after a month or two. For example, here we purchased drum brakes which were brand new. Unfortunately, these were not zinc coated and I did not paint them, and as a result the whole thing just looks like it's 30 years old. So these things look like they came off a tractor in a barn. That's how bad they look like. So for future reference, always make sure either go with zinc, you're gonna pay a little extra, or if you don't want to pay extra, make sure you clean them off the oil that's already built in factory, that's applied factory. Make sure you put some primer and paint, and that's going to help prevent it from looking the way it's looking, especially if you have a performance car, because this on a sports car is going to be crazy. Now with the handbrake off, you want to spin your drum brake and hear some resistance in the drum pads that they're holding into the drum. If there's no resistance, then when you pull the handbrake or braking in general, you're not going to get your full pressure applied around the whole circumference of the brake. So you definitely want to adjust these things once in a while. For this one, an example, I didn't really adjust them when I first got them. I left them really loose just because we were having some noise with them, but now the e-brake barely works. You'll rip the e-brake all the way up and the handbrake is barely holding on to the circumference here. So what that means is, I'll show you. Today's beer of choice is a Pilsner from the Czech Republic. Cheers, boys. So what that means is that these pads in here, when I pull the handbrake, are not expanding wide enough to cause friction alongside the drum here. So there is an adjuster in there, as you can see. That's the adjuster. It's a little wheel you have to turn downward. What you have to do is turn that wheel down towards you. Such as this. And what turning it does, it actually expands. It expands these brakes out a little bit more. So let's put the brake drum back on. I can still easily spin it. I want a little bit more friction. So we're just gonna repeat the process until it feels right. And we're gonna repeat on both sides. Once you find the happy medium, the sweet spot where it is gripping a little bit, but not too much to slow you down while you're driving, that's the sweet spot. But we're gonna go on the other side and do the same thing. Likewise, make sure you guys get some brake fluid and spray the inside of this drum, because I just threw the drum here and look at all this excess brake dust that's coming off. You don't want this to be in there. This is no good. This is the second wheel. As you can see, we put a lot of anti-seize last time, and a lot of moisture built up here as well as inside the drum. For that reason, we're gonna wipe this off because we don't want moisture around the brakes, or we don't want that moisture to be getting in and creating problems in the friction zones. Likewise on this side, as you can see, this little metal clip tab should be right against that gear, and it's completely off assembly here, so we have to readjust it, because otherwise it is not in place properly. Even though we put it in place properly when we first installed it, something malfunctioned, and this might be the reason our handbrake is not really gripping. So we're gonna readjust it, maneuver this bar and try to get it in the right correction. And then again, we're gonna turn the gear to make sure the outside pads are firm against the drum brake here. So as it turns out, this little lever right over here was pushed in too far forward, as it's supposed to be a little bit more towards you. And now, as you can see, it is holding that gear right in place there, so it won't move. So now we're just going to adjust that gear. We're going to turn it towards us to expand it. You hear the clicks? You want to make sure it's clicking properly, because then it locks it in that position. Alright, so now it's locked. Put the drum brake on. I still hear no play whatsoever, so it's going to be too loose. The specs are going to be too loose. So just keep repeating that until you're happy with the tension. Let's just take a minute to admire how clean this car is today. Wow, I haven't seen this thing this clean since the fall. So before, because there was so much tension between the brake pads and the brake drum, my handbrake would go all the way here and I would barely get any gripping from the rear brakes. Now, that's about it. Nice and tight, short range of motion. That means there's a little bit of play in there, which is just enough not to cause friction while you're driving normally, but you do get that, stopping power when you really need it.